For RawVegas.tv, my name is Dave Farah at Tao Nightclub inside the Venetian, where tonight Joe Rogan's going to show up. Joe Rogan, of course, from the UFC and from stand-up comedy. We'll talk to him about both right here on RawVegas.tv. Joe Rogan, how you doing, man?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Isn't your comedy special on right now? Shouldn't you be having a party somewhere watching it?
No, I don't want to see it. I've seen it. I've done it already. I looked at it through the editing process. I looked at it plenty. I get uncomfortable when I watch myself sometimes.
Isn't it funny that everyone knows you now for the UFC instead of the comedy stuff? Because it used to be reversed a while ago.
Well, it was more the Fear Factor stuff than anything else. And then it was like the UFC was like, that was like the surprise. And now like comedy. I definitely think it's still more Fear Factor than anything, you know?
I doubt it, man. You're like the guy. You're kind of onto something with this whole UFC thing, I think.
Well, I think the UFC for sure is going nowhere. I mean, this is, or it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's not that it's going nowhere. I mean, it's crazy how popular it is. I never would have dreamed it. You know, when I did commentary for the first one, it was like 1997 UFC 12, and it was in Dothan, Alabama, and it was this tiny little arena, you know, and it was real weird, and nobody knew what was going on, and everybody would yell gay as soon as it went to the ground. And to see it now where it is, I mean, it's just incredible. You know, I never would have believed it.
Let's talk about the fights tonight, man, because there was like 3 fights where I'm like, this has got to be fight of the night.
We haven't stopped talking about the Clay Guida-Diego Sanchez fights from the moment we left the arena till right now. We were just talking about it when we get in the car.
Who takes his chin to the chin and stays alive?
That guy is a fucking monster. He's a monster. He won't stop, you know. And Diego, that dude just gets better and better every time he fights. And his stand-up is just, it looks so much crisper and more comfortable. Like, he always had, like, power in his punches, like, even when he knocked out Joe Riggs. But it almost seemed like it was a little awkward. But now he looks like a kickboxer.
He's using his full reach, too?
Dude, he's a monster. He's a monster. Diego's a monster. That's why I knew this was going to be such a tremendous fight, because they're both monsters. Much props to Diego. I mean, he's just incredible performance, you know?
Would you say that those two guys are the most intense fighters in the UFC today?
That was the craziest stare down ever. Me and Mike Goldberg were saying, I want to watch that stare down for a half an hour. You know, it's just a mean face contest, you know, and I don't know who won. It was pretty close, you know. They're both pretty nuts, man.
All right, let's chat UFC 100 because everyone's jazzed about this.
Yeah, well, I talked to Brock Lesnar. We did a little satellite thing today. I got a chance to, you know, talk to him a little bit, but, you know, what an incredible fight that's going to be. Frank Mir is so rejuvenated since the Nogueira fight. I mean, that dude finally, like, trained really hard, and then he had the performance of his life. It's like the universe sent him a message. Like, you have all the talent in the world, just focus yourself and look how good you can be. You know, and if he keeps that going, man, and improves on it even, who knows how Brock Lesnar's going to be able to handle that. But then again, Brock Lesnar is, even though he's the UFC heavyweight champion, he's learning on the job. I mean, that guy's getting so much better every time you see him. Like, the Heath Herring fight was incredible. And he just looks like a monster. You know, the Randy Couture fight, when he clipped Randy with, like, it looked like barely even, you know, barely connected on point, you know, just clipped him. And Randy dropped. I mean, he's just a gorilla, just like a super athlete. And he's learning all the positions now, learning what to avoid, you know, drilling it. He doesn't want to make that same mistake that he made in the first fight. So that's an incredible fight, man. You got this newly rejuvenated Frank Mir, who really the big momentum from his rejuvenation, or for his rejuvenation, was the win over Lesnar. Once he beat Lesnar, it was like, holy shit, Frank Mir is for real. He's back. He really was like he's back. And now with this fight, with him coming off the Nogueira fight, and how good Brock has looked, and how good he looked against Randy, and how spooky he looked against Heath Herring, man, that's a fight. That's a sick fight.
You know, his stand-up looked incredible against Nogueira, but I will say that Brock Lesnar's a beast. Do you think there's any way that Frank Mir can actually beat Brock Lesnar standing up, trading punches with him?
Who knows? You know, I don't know. You know, you look at Brock Lesnar, you go, God, that guy seems like he could just take an immense amount of punishment. You know, just physically, like his frame. It's like, you know, a guy like that, it looks like it'd be really hard to hurt. Frank Mir's so good on the ground. I mean, you never know what can happen in a fight. You zig when you should have zagged. You know, you never know. But if you had a look, I don't think that's the way he's going to beat him. But I could be wrong. You know, if I guessed how Frank Mir could win, it's got to be a submission. That's what I would think. But if I guess how Brock Lesnar would be, it would be some sort of a brutal molestation, brutality type of a thing.
Final question for you, St. Pierre and Alves. Give me your thoughts.
That's an amazing fight. And really the first time George St. Pierre has fought a real striker. In my opinion, Alves is the most dangerous stand-up fighter he's ever fought. And then if you got to look at Alves' last fight, or the fight with Josh Koscheck, how good his takedown defense was. I mean, it was just outstanding. The Hughes fight, he got taken down, but, first of all, Matt Hughes is a beast. And second of all, he supposedly had an injured ankle, which is why he couldn't make weight for that fight. He was 176. You can remember they had a fight at a catch weight, and he looked gigantic. And it was because he couldn't do any running, apparently. So if you factor that into it, like, man, he's a dangerous, dangerous opponent, I mean, and then you got to think about the only time that GSP has really been beat down was by Matt Serra. Matt Serra caught him with a big punch and then went after him. Now, we don't usually see him get hit that much, I mean, George, when George fought, like his last couple of fights, his boxing has looked so good. Like the BJ fight, the way he wore BJ down first, which was very, very smart, a good strategy. But his boxing just looks so crisp. His stand-up looks excellent, and he's not really getting hit. But a guy like Alves might hit him, and then what happens?
UFC 100, I'm amped. I know you're amped. Enjoy your party tonight. Congratulations on your big stand-up special hitting Comedy Central. I know that's big for you.
Thank you very much. And I enjoy watching your interviews. I watch them online all the time. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Joe Rogan, Dave Farah, thanks for joining us here on rawvegas.tv.